Hello, this is John here at this kind of spot that I really like. And just sort of thinking, as we look around here, I want you to pay attention. All the little stuff. I'm going to go this way because there's stuff over there we don't need to see. But look around, ignoring some of the graffiti, and I know there's some other stuff in here that's unfortunate. But just as you look, something, I think one of my favorite things my grandma taught me, Grandma Garner, was looking at, and this is sort of just like the observational mindfulness sort of practice thing for the day, was, and she did this a lot of times if we were driving somewhere, like out to Pennsylvania to see family, or if we're going, I don't know, somewhere. But look at, and I know, again, as a different caveat, I know this is interesting coming from how colorblind I am. Orange, blue, and red, green. But if we look at like the rocks over here and the trees, just see how there's the different shades of the moss. There's some of it where the moss is kind of heavy. There's some of it where there's just some sort of stain or some other sort of fungal or oxidized sort of thing going on. And you can even see the differences in the barks of the trees. So I can't really name trees that differently, but you can see some of them have buds on them, some of them not so much. Some of the buds are like an orangey, some of them are coming out more green. You got the birds going by, you got some cracks in bark. You got some bark that show, or the sort of meat of the tree under there that's showing white, maybe a sycamore, which would be sort of spiritually kind of an important thing, usually seen as sort of tree that's almost like helping between worlds sort of thing. Ignoring the man-made debris here. But now even just the different layers of the falls out there, the little rapid bits here, the rapid bits over there, just the small subtle differences between them. How this one over here has a kind of dip. This one right in front of it, I can't even tell if my hand's in shot. This one's right here is just kind of more of the layers. And then with my gloves and hat, we've got over here the different sort of bits where the dirt is and the different sort of types of rock, kind of like that shaly type stuff, and then more sort of hard, less sort of shaved rock or anything. Just being able to stop and think and pay attention to those little things, those little differences, and the way that they contrast, the way they show up differently, but then the ways that they also contribute to each other as well. So a lot of things, there's almost like, if things are allowed to proceed more naturally, there are even things like, I don't know if you can see this right across from me here. There's, I don't know if you can see this, the way the rock is, it looks like that there's kind of a weird chunk, like it might have actually been partially man-made or moved in some fashion that might have had a thing, because the way it's lying doesn't look quite kind of right. But it's been there a long time, so it's kind of almost being reclaimed. So you have some of those different shots of those like trees that have been growing around like cars or fences or bicycles or something like that. So after time, even things that are synthetic, considered unnatural, man-made, now start becoming part of the environment and part of the ecosystem of the thing as well. But just look at the sort of subtle differences. And even over here, right across from me, I'm trying not to move too fast with the camera. See how some of like the more weedy, thinner ones actually have kind of bigger leaves and buds than some of the big old trees. And up there, you just see some buds coming out, or a lot of blank branches. So I'm not really trying to make any sort of ecological point at this at all. I'm not really trying to go with any sort of Loraxian save the trees things, although we do. The sort of point of this is more just being able to stop and look and observe. No, not look, not see, but observe. I guess would be look. The sight would be just the thing, and then looking would be the attention. But then the observation is almost like a layer above that too. So having an observation about things around you, but without it becoming then distracting. So being able to observe things, being able to notice the differences in color, notice the differences in shading, notice the differences in the different types of rock and the different types of trees and plants, and where looks like, there's sort of a mudslide versus a shale thing. The bridge over there looks kind of cool because it looks kind of old. And with I don't know if you can see it there, with the kind of big blocks instead of just boring flat concrete poured down the middle of something. Being able to see and look and observe all those things, but then not being distracted from it too. That's sort of the additional thing. My grandma always was sort of pointing out things and subtle shading of things. She likes to paint and things like that. And that kind of helped me be able to develop a certain observational skills, to look at, detail points and everything like that. That and, something odd decades of reading Sherlock Holmes and Agatha Christie and stuff like that sort of did a lot too. But I got to give Grandma credit where credit's due. That was kind of like the real thing that made me kind of really pay attention. And then, my sort of contribution to that would be, like I said, not being distracted by it. That balance of being able to, yes, see the fine difference and the fine detail of the environment and the landscape, even of people and their houses, even your house and your life and everything like that. People's clothes, their hair, their glasses, all these other things, without being distracted by it. So in other words, without having that sort of discerning mind then now start passing judgment on it. Or actually, having that sort of discerning mind being able to maybe become almost compulsively obsessed might be the wrong word, but over attentive to one or two features. This is something that I work on this a lot because I do tend to do that with some things and with people as well. It's like, hey, this outfit or the hair, the thing like this, and then it's like, well, this doesn't work for that. Well, it doesn't work. Maybe I don't think it works, or something I think is cool. And then I know from my own sort of body image issues, even though someone might think, hey, this thing is cool, that might be something that is a bone of contention with the other person. So being able to, yes, see the big picture, see the detail, see the interplay between those things, the interplay between the details and the big picture, being able to understand things in a holistic environment sense as a system. The human body is a system. The planet's a system. Whatever sort of environment that you're in is a system. Everything, we have a mechanistic view of things where everything is separated out into its component parts and then dealt with that way, and we don't pay attention to the way things interact, which is, it's not natural. Everything from sort of scientific reductionist materialism to what passes for healthcare in the United States, which is neither about health nor care. Everything is just going back, break it down to these discerning bits, and then that's all it is. Everything's just a machine, and that's not the way things are. So being able to understand, but that is a thing to also pay attention to. It does not have merits to understand things in a certain way too. So being able to do both, understand the system, understand the parts, understand the interplay between the large and the small, but not being distracted, obsessed, anxietal, or as some sort of philosophical sort of trains would say, then judgmental towards it, not having an opinion or a judgment to it as well. So, and it kind of starts with just stopping and looking, stop and breathe, stop and pay attention. Not when you're driving. It's not a good idea if you're driving. Rubbernecking included. But when you get the chance, and take the chance to do that. Take the chance, even if it's just looking out a window or looking out a backyard, or maybe you're sitting in the, food court of a mall whenever we're able to do that again. And you finished your meal, and before you just kind of shove everything down your gullet and throw everything out, and then just sort of mosey on consuming other things, just stop and sit and pay attention. And then these things help now if you're doing meditation, you're stopping and paying attention and turning that around inside. What might feel like it's holding on strongly or with tension, compression, something doesn't feel right, something feels awesome, something feels like it's off center, something feels like it's pumping, something feels like it's gathering, something feels like it's pulling away. But again, without now passing judgment on that. It's something I really wish I would have been able to do when I was first starting out, because if everything wasn't perfect, super Tai Chi master, enlightened Buddha instantly, then everything was wrong, and this sucked, and I suck, and I'm horrible and terrible. And without doing that, just paying attention to what's going on, keep your breath even, keep your mind kind of low in your lower dantian, and let the rest sort of take care of itself, but paying attention to it. But again, without that judgment, without saying something's right or something's wrong, just pay attention. Yeah, that's kind of all I have for that.